Crawl to me like the dog you are, boy. Lick my boots clean. Derek Stone's massive frame towers over Marcus Johnson in Riverside Correctional Facility's yard. His steel-toed boot kicks Marcus's book, pages scattering like broken dreams. 200 inmates circle them. Derek grabs Marcus's collar, slamming him against concrete. Blood trickles from Marcus's split lip. "Look at this worthless piece of shit," Derek spits, his Aryan Brotherhood tattoos rippling. "A college boy thinks he's better than us." He forces Marcus's face toward his filthy boots. "Lick them, now, while everyone watches." Marcus trembles, whispering, "Please, just let me do my time." The crowd roars with laughter. Derek's crew pounds their chests, but none of them notice the way Marcus positioned his feet, the slight bend in his knees, the careful way he kept his hands free despite appearing helpless. Derek Stone had absolutely no idea what kind of man he was humiliating. Have you ever pushed someone so far that you accidentally woke up something you never knew existed? Riverside Correctional Facility sits like a concrete cancer in the heart of Pennsylvania. Maximum security. Population, 3,200. Here, reputation means survival, and weakness equals death. Marcus Johnson walks through the gates carrying nothing but a Bible and a photo of his 16-year-old daughter, Destiny. Former WBC light heavyweight champion. 5 successful title defenses. Now inmate hash 47,291, serving 8 to 15 years for manslaughter. The crime that destroyed everything, defending his sister from her abusive ex-boyfriend. One punch, one moment of protecting family, one dead man who wouldn't stop choking the woman Marcus loved most. The media painted him as another violent black man. Sponsors vanished overnight. Endorsement deals worth millions disappeared. His world crumbled in 72 hours. Marcus made a decision the day he entered Riverside. Hide who he was. Stay invisible. Do his time quietly and get back to Destiny before she graduated high school. Boxing was his past life, a dangerous secret that would make him a target in a place where former champions become trophies for ambitious predators. Every morning at 5 a.m., Marcus follows the same routine. Silent breakfast with eyes down, library work detail, organizing legal books for inmates filing appeals, lunch alone in the corner, recreation time spent reading instead of lifting weights, evening lockdown by 9 p.m. He's mastered the art of invisibility in a place where standing out gets you killed. Other inmates see weakness. They don't see the disciplined mind of a champion who spent 20 years calculating opponents' weaknesses, studying their movements, memorizing their patterns, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. They see a college boy who reads books and avoids confrontation. They don't see hands that once generated 1,200 pounds of punching power. Derek Stone built his empire differently. 15 years in the system, leader of the Aryan Brotherhood's drug operations. Controls 3 cell blocks through fear, violence, and systematic intimidation. 30 followers who would kill for his approval and a steady supply of guards on his payroll. Derek's reputation was forged in blood and terror. He broke a man's jaw with a padlock for disrespecting him. He burned another inmate's face with boiling coffee for looking at him wrong. He once forced a child molester to hang himself rather than face Derek's personal justice. Guards either fear him or take his money to look the other way. In Derek's world, respect comes from one source, the absolute ability to destroy anyone who challenges your authority. He sits at the top of Riverside's food chain, untouchable and untested. His word is law. His violence is legendary. Until now. Marcus shares cell block C with Carlos Rivera, a former gang member turned prison counselor. Carlos sees something different in Marcus. Intelligence, discipline, controlled power simmering beneath the surface. But he can't figure out why this educated man carries himself with the balance and awareness of a trained fighter. Officer Williams, one of the few black guards in Riverside, watches Marcus with increasingly curious eyes. Something about the new inmate's walk, his perfect posture, his calm presence in chaos, reminds him of professional athletes he's admired on television. The prison's unspoken hierarchy is brutally simple. Derek Stone rules through systematic terror. His followers maintain order through calculated violence and psychological warfare. Everyone else survives by staying invisible, following unwritten rules, and never challenging the established power structure. But Derek Stone had built his reputation on breaking men exactly like Marcus, quiet, educated, seemingly defenseless fresh meat who needed to learn their place in his carefully constructed world of dominance and submission. What Derek didn't know was that Marcus Johnson had spent his entire adult life in a different kind of ring, where violence had rules, respect was earned through demonstrated skill, and real power came from discipline rather than brutality. Day 3 of Marcus's incarceration. The cafeteria buzzes with the usual tension of 800 men forced to eat together. Marcus takes his tray, watery soup, stale bread, mystery meat, and looks for an empty table. Derek Stone appears like a shadow, stepping directly in front of Marcus in the lunch line. Without warning, Derek's shoulder slams into Marcus's tray. Hot soup explodes across Marcus's prison uniform, burning his chest through the thin fabric. Oops. Derek's voice drips with mock concern as his crew surrounds them. Looks like the college boy doesn't know how to hold his food. Clumsy little bitch, aren't you? Marcus freezes, soup still dripping from his shirt. 800 pairs of eyes turn toward them. The cafeteria falls silent except for the hum of fluorescent lights overhead. Derek kicks Marcus's fallen tray, sending it skittering across the concrete floor with a metallic clang. Bread and meat scatter in every direction. Now you're gonna clean that shit up on your hands and knees like the fucking dog you are. This is the test. Every inmate knows the rules. Submit completely or fight back and face Derek's entire crew. There's no middle ground in prison, no negotiation, no mercy. Marcus slowly kneels on the filthy concrete floor. His hands shake as he begins picking up soggy bread with his bare fingers. The humiliation is complete, total, absolute. Derek's followers laugh and point. Other inmates shake their heads in disgust and disappointment. Fresh meat getting broken on day 3, a new record for pathetic weakness. Carlos Rivera watches from across the cafeteria, his fists clenched under the table. Marcus, don't do this, he whispers urgently. Fight back or you're finished here. They'll never stop. But Marcus continues cleaning, his face a mask of calm acceptance. Inside, his champion's mind works automatically, cataloging Derek's stance, his balance, the way he distributes his weight, noting the exact distance between them, calculating angles and vulnerabilities with the precision of a master craftsman. Derek plants his boot inches from Marcus's face. Good boy. Maybe you'll actually survive here if you remember your place. He leans down, his voice dropping to a whisper only Marcus can hear. This is just the beginning, college boy. I own you now. As Marcus stands with his handful of soggy garbage, Derek delivers one final humiliation. He spits directly in Marcus's face, the saliva running down his cheek as 300 inmates watch in stunned silence. Marcus doesn't wipe it off. He doesn't react. He simply walks away, leaving Derek victorious and completely confident in his dominance. But Derek Stone had just made the biggest mistake of his life. He had humiliated a man who once shared a ring with Canelo Alvarez and lived to tell about it. And Marcus Johnson never forgot an insult. Week 2 begins Derek's systematic campaign to break Marcus completely. What started as casual dominance becomes calculated psychological warfare designed to destroy every shred of dignity Marcus has left. Derek's first move targets Marcus's personal possessions. At 3 a.m., guards conduct a random cell search, Derek's arrangement with corrupt officers who owe him favors. They tear through Marcus's few belongings like animals, ripping his family photos into pieces and scattering the fragments across the concrete floor. Contraband inspection! Officer Bradley smirks, grinding Marcus's picture of destiny under his boot heel. Looks like you're hiding something, boy. Marcus watches his daughter's face disappear under dirty rubber. He says nothing, does nothing, but his hands form fists so tight his knuckles turn white. Carlos helps Marcus pick up the destroyed pieces after the guards leave. This isn't random, hermano. Derek ordered this hit. I know, Marcus whispers, trying to tape together Destiny's torn smile. The next phase involves forced labor. Derek makes Marcus his personal servant, cleaning Derek's cell, washing his clothes in the communal sink, organizing his illegal commissary stockpile. Every task designed to humiliate, to break spirit, to establish absolute dominance. Scrub harder, college boy, Derek commands, lounging on his bunk while Marcus cleans his toilet with bare hands. I want to see my face in that bowl when you're done. Derek's crew watches and learns. If Derek can break an educated man this completely, imagine what he can do to them. Fear spreads through the cell block like poison. Marcus performs every degrading task without complaint. Other inmates stop looking at him. Defeated men become invisible in prison. They represent failure, weakness, everything every convict fears becoming. But Derek isn't satisfied with simple submission. He needs complete psychological destruction. The phone call incident happens during Marcus's weekly contact with Destiny. These 15-minute conversations are his lifeline, the only thing keeping him sane in this concrete hell. Derek positions his crew around the phone booth as Marcus dials his daughter's number. The moment Destiny's voice comes through the receiver, sweet, innocent, trusting, Derek strikes. "Tell her Daddy's too busy being my personal bitch to talk," Derek announces loudly enough for nearby inmates to hear. His crew laughs like hyenas, feeding off their leader's cruelty. Marcus's hand trembles on the receiver. "Daddy?" Destiny's voice sounds worried. "Is everything okay? You sound different." Derek steps closer, his breath hot against Marcus's neck. "Hang up now, or I'll tell her exactly what kind of man her daddy really is." For the first time since entering Riverside, Marcus's voice cracks. "Baby girl, I have to go. Something came up. But we just started talking. I had so much to tell you about school and—" "I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry." Marcus hangs up, his daughter's confused voice echoing in his memory. Derek's grin spreads across his face like an infected wound. "Family time's over, bitch. From now on, you talk to who I say when I say." That night, Marcus lies in his bunk staring at the ceiling. Carlos pretends to sleep but watches his cellmate carefully. For the first time, he sees Marcus's hands moving, not randomly but with purpose. Shadowboxing, combinations, footwork patterns practiced in the space between his narrow bed and the concrete wall. Derek's perspective reveals his psychological strategy. In his twisted mind, breaking Marcus serves multiple purposes: establishing dominance, entertaining his followers, and maintaining the fear-based hierarchy that keeps him in power. "This college boy is perfect," Derek tells his lieutenant, Tommy Burke, during their nightly planning session. "Quiet, educated, nonviolent. Breaking him sends a message to every fish who walks through those gates. I own this place. Even the good ones know their place." Derek's crew grows bolder, each member trying to impress their leader with new creative ways to torment Marcus. They steal his food during meals. They accidentally bump into him during yard time. They spread rumors that he's a child molester to make other inmates hate him. The systematic campaign reaches its peak during week 4. Derek arranges the ultimate humiliation, a public display of absolute dominance that will cement his reputation forever. In the main yard, with over 200 inmates watching, Derek forces Marcus to his knees in front of everyone. He pulls out his boots, the same filthy boots from their first encounter, and places them directly in front of Marcus's face. "Shine them," Derek commands, his voice carrying across the silent yard, "with your tongue." The crowd holds its breath. This crosses every line. Human dignity, basic respect, fundamental decency, even hardened criminals have limits. Marcus stares at the dirty leather, his reflection distorted in the scuffed surface. Every man watching knows this moment will define him forever. Submit to this ultimate degradation, and he becomes Derek's property for life. Refuse, and face brutal retaliation. Derek leans down, his voice a whisper of pure malice. "Do it, or I'll make sure your daughter knows exactly what kind of weak little bitch her daddy turned out to be." Marcus's body begins to lean forward. The crowd watches in horrified fascination. Derek's triumph seems complete and total, but as Marcus's face approaches the boot, Derek makes a critical error. He relaxes, gets cocky, drops his guard completely, confident in his absolute victory. Marcus notices Derek's stance, his positioning, his complete lack of defensive awareness. The champion's mind automatically calculates the perfect combination that would end this humiliation in 3 seconds flat. But not yet. Not here. Not like this. Marcus's lips almost touch the leather when he stops, his voice barely audible. "I can't do this!" Derek's face contorts with rage. The ultimate humiliation has been refused. In front of 200 witnesses, his authority has been challenged. "Then you just signed your death warrant, college boy." That night, Marcus sits on his narrow bunk, hands shaking from adrenaline and suppressed rage. The fluorescent lights cast harsh shadows across the concrete walls as Carlos pretends to read, carefully watching his cellmate's every movement. "You can't keep taking this, hermano," Carlos whispers, glancing toward the door to make sure no one's listening. "Derek's not going to stop. He's going to keep pushing until you break completely or until he kills you." Marcus finally speaks, his voice barely audible. "I was WBC light heavyweight champion, 5 title defenses, fought in front of 50,000 people at Madison Square Garden." Carlos drops his book, staring at his cellmate in shock. "Jesus Christ, Marcus. You're the Marcus Thunder Johnson. My son had your poster on his bedroom wall." "That man is dead," Marcus replies, staring at his hands that once generated 1,200 pounds of punching power. "I threw one punch on the outside defending my family and lost everything. My title, my money, my reputation. I'm not making that mistake again." "But this is different," Carlos argues urgently. "You're defending yourself here. Derek's planning something big tomorrow. Word is spreading through the blocks. He's going to make an example of you that everyone will remember." Marcus reveals his plan, the strategy he's been clinging to since day one. Continue taking the abuse, document everything through official channels, file grievances with the warden, trust the system to protect him if he follows every rule perfectly. "The system?" Carlos's voice rises in disbelief. "Marcus, half these guards are on Derek's payroll. The other half are too scared to cross him. The only language he understands is violence." "I won't become like him," Marcus insists. "Violence destroyed my life once. I'm getting out of here clean, going back to Destiny and rebuilding everything I lost." But even as he speaks these words, Marcus knows Derek won't allow peaceful resolution. Tomorrow will bring another escalation, another test, another step toward the inevitable confrontation that will define the rest of his time at Riverside. Carlos watches Marcus's hands unconsciously form fighting combinations under the thin blanket. Muscle memory from 20 years in professional rings. The champion's body remembers what his mind refuses to accept. "Sometimes," Carlos whispers, "the system forces you to become what you swore you'd never be again." Outside their cell, Derek Stone finalizes his plan for tomorrow's ultimate humiliation. Recreation time, 2 p.m. The prison yard fills with inmates eager for their daily escape from concrete cells. Derek Stone has spent the morning spreading word through every block. Today's entertainment would be legendary. Marcus walks into the yard carrying his usual book, trying to maintain the routine that's kept him invisible for weeks. But today feels different. Inmates cluster in small groups, whispering and pointing in his direction. Something deadly is building in the afternoon heat. Derek emerges from the wait area surrounded by his crew, 30 followers hungry for blood and validation. In his right hand, barely concealed beneath a torn t-shirt, he grips a makeshift shiv carved from a toothbrush handle and sharpened to razor precision on concrete walls. "Ladies and gentlemen," Derek announces, his voice carrying across the entire yard like a ringside announcer. "Today we're going to teach our college boy about respect, about knowing your place in the natural order of things." Inmates abandon their activities immediately. Basketball games stop mid-shot. Weightlifters drop their bars, card players throw down their hands. They form a massive circle around Derek and Marcus, creating an arena of human flesh and bloodthirsty anticipation. Over 200 men press closer, sensing violence like sharks smelling blood. No guards in sight. Derek's carefully planned payoffs ensure perfect timing and zero interference. Hidden among the crowd, Antonio Valdez nervously pulls out a contraband smartphone. Derek's own crew member, assigned to record this moment for posterity and intimidation. The ultimate humiliation deserves documentation that will spread fear throughout the entire prison system. "Here's what's going to happen," Derek continues, circling Marcus like an apex predator stalking wounded prey. "You're going to crawl to me on your hands and knees like the pathetic dog you are. Then you're going to beg for my forgiveness for disrespecting me yesterday. Maybe then I'll let you keep breathing in my house." Marcus stands in the center of the human arena, book clutched against his chest like inadequate armor. His voice is steady but quiet. "I don't want any trouble, Derek. I just want to do my time and go home to my daughter." "Wrong fucking answer, college boy." Derek's civilized mask slips completely, revealing pure racial hatred underneath. You think you're better than us with your education and your quiet little act. Time to learn what happens to uppity boys who forget their place in my world. The crowd grows restless, sensing the approaching violence they've been promised. In prison, entertainment comes in one brutal form, watching the strong destroy the weak. Derek has built his reputation on delivering spectacular shows, and today promises to be his masterpiece. I won't kneel to you, Marcus says quietly, his words barely audible above the crowd's growing murmur of excitement. Derek's face contorts with pure rage. In front of 200 witnesses, his absolute authority has been directly challenged. The foundation of his power, complete and total fear, cracks visibly for everyone to see. Then you just chose death, boy. Derek charges forward with a wild haymaker, the kind of sloppy, telegraphed punch thrown by street brawlers and angry amateurs. His technique is terrible. All rage, no skill. But he's counting on Marcus being completely defenseless, on fear paralyzing him into helpless submission. Time slows to a crawl. Marcus's body moves with muscle memory built over 20 years in professional boxing rings. He slips the punch with minimal, efficient movement, Derek's fist whistling past his ear by mere inches. The crowd gasps collectively. That wasn't luck or accident. Too smooth, too clean, too professional for a random defensive movement. Derek, completely off balance from his wild missed attack, stumbles forward like a drunk amateur. His guard drops entirely, leaving his chin exposed and vulnerable. Marcus could end everything right here with a perfect uppercut that would put Derek in the prison hospital for months. Instead, Marcus steps backward defensively, keeping his hands at his sides in a non-threatening position. "I don't want to fight you," he repeats calmly. Derek's embarrassment transforms into murderous, uncontrollable rage. He's been made to look foolish in front of his entire crew and hundreds of potential witnesses. The shiv appears in his hand, its crude blade glinting menacingly in the harsh afternoon sunlight. "Fight me or I'll gut you like a pig right here in front of everyone." Everything changes when weapons appear on the battlefield. Self-defense becomes genuine life-or-death survival. The rules of engagement shift completely from intimidation to mortal combat. Derek lunges with the shiv, aiming directly for Marcus's throat with a killing blow meant to silence him forever and send a message to every inmate in Riverside. Marcus moves like water flowing around death itself. Slip left, step inside Derek's extended reach, trap the weapon arm with professional precision. Derek's clumsy, rage-fueled attack meets 20 years of world-class professional boxing training. The left hook to Derek's solar plexus lands with surgical precision and devastating power. Derek's eyes bulge as air explodes from his lungs. He drops to his knees, gasping desperately like a drowning man fighting for breath. The crowd erupts in complete disbelief. Nobody has ever seen violence this clean, this technical, this professional in Riverside's brutal yard. Derek tries desperately to stand, shiv still clutched in his trembling hand, murder still burning in his eyes. Marcus delivers a textbook jab-cross combination, lightning fast, perfectly placed, devastating in its clinical efficiency. Derek crumples to the concrete unconscious, his body hitting the ground with a sickening thud. The makeshift weapon skitters harmlessly away across the yard. 200 hardened criminals stare in stunned, absolute silence at the unconscious white supremacist leader and the quiet black man standing over him, breathing normally like he just finished a light training session. Antonio's phone captures everything in crystal-clear detail. Derek initiating violence with a deadly weapon. Marcus defending himself with incredible professional skill. The exact moment the prison hierarchy collapsed in 3 perfect punches. Officer Williams arrives with backup guards, expecting to find Marcus beaten, bloody, and broken. Instead, he discovers Derek unconscious and Marcus calmly waiting to surrender himself to authority. "What the hell happened here?" Williams demands, surveying the scene. Multiple voices answer simultaneously from the crowd. "Derek attacked him with a shiv. New guy just defended himself. Never seen anything like it in 15 years. Within hours, Antonio secretly uploads the footage to social media through smuggled Wi-Fi access. The video explodes across every platform. Incredible prison self-defense caught on camera. Boxing fans recognize Marcus immediately. Twitter erupts. Marcus Thunder Johnson defending himself in prison. The hashtag #JusticeForMarcus trends worldwide within 6 hours as the video reaches 10 million views. But Derek Stone isn't finished. Humiliated, beaten, and exposed, he's about to unleash a vicious counterattack that will transform Marcus from overnight hero into public villain. The real war is just beginning. Derek Stone wakes up in the prison infirmary with a splitting headache, 3 cracked ribs, and a concussion that makes the fluorescent lights feel like daggers in his skull. But the physical pain is nothing compared to the humiliation burning in his chest. His brother Tommy Stone receives the call at 3 a.m. from Derek's prison contact. Within hours, Tommy's white nationalist website erupts with a carefully crafted narrative designed to destroy Marcus Johnson's newfound hero status. Violent black criminal attacks defenseless white inmate in racially motivated prison assault. Screams across Tommy's homepage, complete with edited video clips that remove all context. The propaganda machine works with surgical precision. The original video mysteriously disappears from major social platforms. Only carefully edited segments remain, showing Marcus landing devastating punches on a helpless Derek. The makeshift weapon vanishes from every uploaded version. Derek's family hires Richard Blackwood, a notorious attorney who specializes in defending white supremacists and spinning racial narratives for maximum media impact. Blackwood's reputation was built on transforming obvious criminals into sympathetic victims. Within 48 hours of the fight, Marcus faces a legal nightmare that threatens to destroy any hope of early release. Additional felony charges for assault with intent to cause great bodily harm. Civil lawsuit demanding $2 million for medical expenses, psychological trauma, and lost future earnings. Character assassination campaign painting him as a dangerous predator who uses professional fighting skills as deadly weapons. Blackwood stages a press conference outside the courthouse that attracts every major news outlet in Pennsylvania. Derek appears in a wheelchair wearing a neck brace, his face carefully made up to emphasize every bruise and cut. "I was just trying to welcome the new inmate to our facility," Derek lies smoothly, his voice breaking with practiced emotion. "I suffer from PTSD from my childhood abuse, and when he attacked me without warning, I couldn't defend myself properly." Blackwood steps forward, his expensive suit and silver hair lending authority to every calculated word. "My client weighed 180 pounds at the time of this vicious assault. Mr. Johnson is a professional boxer weighing 220 pounds with documented knockout power. This wasn't self-defense. This was attempted murder using hands trained as lethal weapons. The media manipulation campaign operates with military precision. Conservative outlets run headlines like "Professional Fighter Terrorizes Prison," while liberal publications struggle to defend violence they can't fully understand without crucial context. Social media explodes with competing narratives. #JusticeForDerek trends alongside #JusticeForMarcus as edited videos flood every platform. Public opinion shifts dramatically when people see only Marcus's devastating punches without Derek's weapon or racial threats. "He could have just restrained the smaller man," becomes the dominant narrative across news networks. "Professional fighters shouldn't be housed with general population inmates," echoes through congressional hearings on prison violence. Prison administration faces intense media scrutiny and potential federal lawsuits. Warden Patricia Hayes, desperate to avoid federal intervention, makes Marcus the perfect scapegoat for systemic failures. "We're launching a comprehensive investigation into how a professional fighter with violent tendencies was improperly classified in the general population," Hayes announces during her own press conference. "This represents a complete failure of our inmate assessment protocols." Marcus gets transferred to solitary confinement for his own protection and the safety of other inmates. 23 hours daily in a 6x8 concrete box. No commissary privileges, limited phone calls, no visitors except his attorney. His overworked public defender James Morrison delivers devastating news during their first meeting through reinforced glass. "Marcus, they're offering a plea bargain. Plead guilty to felony assault, accept an additional 5 years on your sentence, and they'll drop the civil lawsuit that could bankrupt your family forever." "But I was defending myself," Marcus protests desperately. "He attacked me with a weapon. Everyone saw it happen." "Without the complete video showing the weapon, it's your word against theirs," Morrison explains grimly. "A jury sees a professional boxer with a violent criminal history beating up a much smaller white man. The optics are catastrophically bad for your case." The isolation begins destroying Marcus's mental state. Concrete walls close in during endless hours of silence. Derek's allies spread rumors throughout the general population that Marcus cooperated with investigators and received special treatment for snitching. His teenage daughter, Destiny, finally receives permission for a visit after 2 weeks of bureaucratic delays. She sits across from her father through bulletproof glass, tears streaming down her young face. "Dad, everyone at school saw the videos," she whispers into the prison phone. "Kids are calling you a monster. Teachers look at me differently. I can't take much more of this." "Baby girl, sometimes doing the right thing looks wrong to people who don't understand the whole story," Marcus replies, his voice breaking. "The lawyers are saying you might not get out until I'm 30 years old. Destiny continues. "I can't lose you for my entire life. Please just take whatever deal they're offering." This breaks Marcus completely. He faces an impossible choice: admit guilt for defending himself or lose his daughter's entire young adult life to additional prison time. Derek's medical reports are systematically exaggerated. Expert witnesses testify about Marcus's lethal professional training and potential for extreme violence. Prosecutors paint him as a ticking time bomb who finally exploded when challenged. Meanwhile, the truth sits buried in Antonio Valdez's deleted video file that nobody can locate through official channels. From the general population, Carlos Rivera begins his own investigation using the prison's underground communication network. He knows someone recorded the complete fight, including Derek's weapon and racial threats. Carlos discovers that Antonio Valdez, Derek's own crew member, filmed everything and still possesses the original footage. But Antonio is terrified of retaliation from Derek's remaining allies and prosecution for possessing contraband technology. As Marcus prepares to accept the plea deal to minimize time away from his daughter, Carlos uncovers the key to Marcus's vindication. But accessing that evidence might cost more lives than it saves. The system that failed to protect Marcus now demands he admit guilt for surviving Derek's attempt to murder him. Dr. Sarah Carter arrives at Riverside Correctional Facility like an avenging angel wrapped in a $1,000 suit. The civil rights attorney built her career defending wrongfully convicted minorities, and Marcus's case represents everything wrong with America's justice system. "Marcus, you're not just fighting for yourself anymore," Dr. Carter explains during their first meeting in the cramped attorney visitation room. "This case has become a symbol. You represent every victim who ever had to choose between defending themselves and being destroyed by the system." Dr. Carter's investigation team works with surgical precision, uncovering Derek's extensive criminal history that prison officials deliberately ignored. 47 documented assaults on fellow inmates over 15 years. Leadership role in Aryan Brotherhood drug operations generating thousands in weekly revenue. 3 previous weapons violations mysteriously expunged from his official record. A documented pattern of specifically targeting black inmates for systematic psychological torture. Derek's legal team realizes their carefully constructed narrative is crumbling under professional scrutiny. During an emergency strategy session in Blackwood's downtown office, panic sets in like poison. "Derek, we have a serious problem," Blackwood warns nervously. "They've found multiple witnesses who directly contradict our version of events. This Carter woman isn't some overworked public defender. She's a shark with unlimited resources." "Then make sure those witnesses learn to keep their fucking mouths shut," Derek snarls from his hospital bed, his facade of victimhood disappearing completely. The breakthrough comes when Antonio Valdez, consumed by guilt and fearing for his life as Derek's allies plan to silence him permanently, makes contact with Dr. Carter through intermediaries. Antonio reveals devastating evidence that destroys Derek's entire case. The complete unedited video exists on his phone's encrypted cloud storage, showing Derek planning the attack to make a brutal example. Guards were deliberately distracted as part of Derek's systematic arrangement with corrupt officers. The makeshift weapon was Derek's idea to force Marcus into a position where he'd have no choice but to fight or die. Derek, realizing his legal position is collapsing, launches a final desperate psychological warfare campaign designed to break Marcus's spirit completely. Using his extensive criminal network outside prison walls, Derek orchestrates a vicious campaign to destroy everyone Marcus loves. Phone harassment begins immediately. Derek's associates call Marcus's teenage daughter with graphic death threats, describing in horrifying detail what they'll do to her when Marcus can't protect her anymore. Character assassination follows swiftly. They leak Marcus's complete criminal conviction details to Destiny's high school, ensuring every student and teacher knows her father killed a man with his bare hands. Financial terrorism completes the attack. Derek's family files a frivolous lawsuit against Marcus's elderly mother for emotional distress, forcing her toward bankruptcy and potential homelessness. In solitary confinement, Marcus receives devastating news during his weekly phone call. His daughter is being bullied so severely she's considering dropping out of school. His mother faces losing her house due to mounting legal fees. His sister blames him for destroying their family by getting involved in another violent confrontation. "Maybe I should just take the plea bargain," Marcus tells Dr. Carter during their next visit, defeat evident in every word. "Everyone I love is suffering because of my choices. Derek wins if I keep fighting." "Derek is using your love for your family as a weapon against you," Dr. Carter responds firmly. "He's counting on you believing that protecting yourself was somehow wrong. That's exactly how the system maintains control over people like us." The hearing to determine additional charges becomes a gladiatorial arena where truth battles carefully constructed lies. Judge Patricia Carter presides over proceedings that will determine whether justice or manipulation prevails. Derek's testimony is a masterpiece of deception. Playing the reformed victim perfectly, he lies with conviction about being a changed man genuinely trying to help Marcus adjust to prison life. "I've made terrible mistakes in my past, Your Honor, but I was sincerely trying to welcome him to our community." Derek lies smoothly. "When he attacked me without any provocation, I genuinely feared for my life. I've never experienced violence that professional, that calculated, that terrifying." Dr. Carter prepares to destroy Derek's fabricated narrative with the ultimate bombshell, Antonio's complete unedited video. The courtroom watches in stunned silence as truth unfolds frame by frame. Derek clearly initiates racial aggression and threats, the calculated humiliation designed to break Marcus's spirit. Derek produces the makeshift weapon first, transforming intimidation into attempted murder, Marcus trying desperately to de-escalate before being forced to defend his life. The clinical precision of Marcus's defensive response using exactly the force necessary to survive. Marcus finally tells his complete story under oath, his voice steady and powerful for the first time since entering Riverside. "Your Honor, I spent my entire boxing career in rings where violence has strict rules and immediate consequences. In prison, I learned that violence without rules becomes pure brutality, designed to destroy human dignity. When Derek attacked me with a deadly weapon after weeks of systematic torture, I used exactly the force necessary to protect my life. Nothing more, nothing less." Dr. Carter presents Derek's complete psychological profile to the court, a textbook institutional predator who systematically targets those he perceives as educated or dignified. Evidence proves Derek specifically chose Marcus because his quiet demeanor and intelligence threatened Derek's worldview. "Derek Stone didn't attack just another inmate, Your Honor," Dr. Carter argues passionately. "He attacked everything Marcus Johnson represented: dignity, education, redemption, hope. This case isn't about a prison fight. It's about whether victims have the fundamental right to defend themselves when the system designed to protect them fails completely." Faced with overwhelming evidence and Antonio's devastating testimony, Derek's carefully maintained facade finally cracks under pressure. In a moment of uncontrollable rage, he reveals his true character to everyone present. "You people don't understand anything!" Derek explodes, jumping from his wheelchair in fury. "Animals like him don't belong in civilized places. I was maintaining natural order." Judge Carter's gavel falls like thunder. "Mr. Stone, your idea of natural order appears to involve terrorizing fellow human beings. This court sees clearly who the real predator is in this case. All additional charges against Marcus are immediately dropped. Derek faces new felony charges for assault with a deadly weapon, witness intimidation, and perjury. The civil lawsuit is dismissed with prejudice, and Derek's family ordered to pay Marcus's legal fees. As Marcus walks out of the courthouse vindicated, hundreds of supporters cheer his victory. But the real triumph is personal. His daughter Destiny runs into his arms for the first time in months, whispering, "I'm proud of you for fighting back the right way, Daddy." Derek Stone's transfer to ADX Florence Supermax facility happens under maximum security escort. The same man who once ruled Riverside through terror now wears shackles and a spit hood, reduced to just another number in the federal system. At Florence, Derek discovers that his reputation preceded him, but not in the way he expected. Inmates know him as the white supremacist who got knocked out by a black man in 3 punches. The video plays on contraband phones throughout the facility, making Derek a laughingstock among the very criminals he hoped would respect him. His cell neighbors include actual terrorists and cartel leaders who viewed Derek as a pathetic wannabe who couldn't even maintain control over his own prison yard. The Aryan Brotherhood distances themselves from his failure, leaving him isolated and powerless. Meanwhile, 3 Riverside guards lose their jobs after federal investigators uncover Derek's corruption network. Warden Patricia Hayes faces criminal charges for deliberately covering up weapons violations and enabling systematic inmate abuse. Antonio Valdez enters federal witness protection after his testimony exposes the broader criminal enterprise Derek operated. Marcus's return to Riverside's general population transforms everything. Inmates who once avoided him now approach with genuine respect, not as a target, but as someone who stood up to institutional brutality and won through skill rather than rage. "You did something nobody thought was possible," Carlos tells him during their first conversation after the trial. "You beat Derek without becoming Derek. You proved that real strength doesn't come from hurting people." Marcus establishes a revolutionary self-defense program within Riverside's walls, teaching inmates proper defensive techniques that protect them without resorting to brutal violence. His classes fill immediately with men desperate to learn alternatives to the savage combat they've known their entire lives. Real power isn't about having the ability to hurt someone, Marcus explains to his first class of 20 inmates. It's about having that power and choosing not to use it unless you absolutely have no other choice for survival. The viral movement spreads far beyond prison walls. #Stand Up Like Marcus evolves into a global phenomenon promoting intelligent self-defense over mindless aggression. Community centers across America report record enrollment in legitimate self-defense programs. Boxing gyms nationwide offer free training to at-risk youth with Marcus's message, "Learn to defend yourself with dignity intact." Professional fighters donate time and equipment inspired by Marcus's example of controlled power. Prison reform advocates use Marcus's case as irrefutable evidence of systemic problems requiring immediate congressional attention. His story becomes the centerpiece of federal hearings examining inmate protection failures and administrative corruption. The Marcus Johnson Prison Safety Act advances through Congress with unprecedented bipartisan support. The legislation mandates comprehensive reporting of inmate violence, camera surveillance in all common areas, and federal protection for inmates who report abuse without fear of retaliation. Marcus receives early release consideration due to his exemplary conduct and the documented injustice he suffered. Legal experts predict his original manslaughter conviction will be reduced to time served based on new evidence about the purely defensive nature of his original incident protecting his sister. Destiny starts the Marcus Johnson Scholarship Fund for children of incarcerated parents, inspired by her father's resilience and determination to transform suffering into positive change. The fund raises $500,000 in its first month through crowdfunding campaigns. Major boxing promoters offer Marcus opportunities to train young professional fighters when his release becomes official. HBO announces a documentary about his life called Thunder in the Dark, the Marcus Johnson story. Marcus's elderly mother recovers her house after supporters raise $500,000 in 48 hours, proving that justice sometimes comes from unexpected directions. Derek's final scene takes place in Florence's sterile cafeteria. He sits alone at a metal table, no longer the feared predator, but just another forgotten inmate wearing orange. His Aryan Brotherhood tattoos mark him as a failed leader rather than a symbol of power. The cafeteria television broadcasts news coverage of Marcus's early release hearing. Derek watches through swollen eyes as his former victim receives standing ovations from supporters who traveled hundreds of miles to witness justice. Marcus's closing statement during his final prison interview defines the transformation that saved his soul. "I spent 20 years learning how to knock people down in boxing rings, prison taught me something infinitely more valuable: how to stand up for yourself without losing your humanity in the process. His words echo through concrete corridors where broken men dream of redemption and second chances. 6 months later, Marcus Johnson walks through Riverside's gates as a free man. The same concrete walls that once imprisoned him now stand behind him like a conquered mountain. Hundreds of supporters line the street: former inmates, boxing fans, civil rights advocates, and families touched by his story. His daughter Destiny runs into his arms, 17 years old and stronger for having watched her father fight the right way. "Dad, I'm proud of you for fighting back," she whispers against his shoulder. "But I'm proud that you never lost who you really are." Thunder's Gym opens 3 months later in Marcus's old neighborhood, a converted warehouse where broken dreams get rebuilt through discipline and hope. The waiting list for free self-defense classes stretches 6 months as parents desperate to protect their children flock to learn from the man who proved skill defeats brutality. Marcus's prison program spreads to 47 correctional facilities across 12 states. Recidivism rates drop 23% among participants who learn what Marcus calls defensive discipline, protecting yourself without destroying your soul. Standing Up: The Marcus Johnson Story wins the Academy Award for Best Documentary. Marcus donates his profits to prison reform organizations working to protect vulnerable inmates nationwide. His acceptance speech became the most watched moment in Oscar history. The Marcus Johnson Prison Safety Act passes with overwhelming bipartisan support. The first criminal justice reform legislation in decades to unite Democrats and Republicans around common-sense protection for those behind bars. Derek Stone serves 15 additional years for assault with a deadly weapon and federal civil rights violations. His white supremacist network crumbles under federal investigation, dismantled piece by piece like the house of cards it always was. #Stand Up Like Marcus became a global movement for justice and legal self-defense rights. Similar cases emerge worldwide, with victims citing Marcus's example for courage to fight back properly. International boxing federations establish Marcus Johnson self-defense centers in developing countries. Marcus's story proves that real strength flows from discipline, not rage, that justice requires courage, not just hope, that sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is stand up for yourself while keeping your dignity intact. If this story inspired you, here's how you can make a difference. Subscribe and hit the notification bell for more underdog victories that prove ordinary people can do extraordinary things. Share this story with someone who needs to hear that they're stronger than they know. Comment below and tell us, have you ever had to stand up to a bully? What happened when you found your courage? Support prison reform organizations working to protect vulnerable inmates from predators who exploit the system. Learn proper self-defense techniques to protect yourself and others legally and ethically. Remember, the goal is never to hurt someone unnecessarily. The goal is preventing them from hurting you. The video ends with Marcus teaching Destiny basic defensive moves in their backyard. She laughs as she practices the same techniques that saved her father's life, her movements growing more confident with each repetition. "Remember, sweetheart," Marcus says gently, "the goal is never to hurt someone. The goal is making sure they can't hurt you." "And then what, Dad?" Destiny asks, throwing a perfect defensive combination. "Then you walk away with your dignity and your soul intact. That's what real victory looks like. Real heroes don't just survive, they stand up for what's right, even when the cost seems impossibly high." Marcus Johnson was released in 2024 and continues advocating for prison reform through his foundation. Derek Stone remains incarcerated. No inmates have been attacked in Marcus's former prison since comprehensive reforms were implemented. If you or someone you know faces bullying or abuse, remember, you have the fundamental right to defend yourself. Learn how to do it safely, legally, and ethically. Subscribe for more stories of ordinary people doing extraordinary things. Because sometimes the underdog wins, and when they do properly, they change the world forever. Marcus's championship belt hangs in his gym next to a photo of him teaching inmates, with the caption, "Some victories happen in the ring. The most important ones happen in here." He points to his heart, where champions are truly born.